Hello, JWF trustees, and welcome to our meeting to educate site visit leaders on their role. I'm Pam Greenwood, Director of JWF.
And I'm Debbie Turvey, and I am the grants chair and have been for the last 2 years.
So thank you for being here and for taking on this important leadership role. No question is too small. Please reach out to the JWF office if you're unclear about anything that we talk about today or your role. This year, our site visits may be virtual or in person. That depends on the organization or on the project itself. And this decision will be made by the grants co-chairs.
So at this point, you might be wondering, what are my responsibilities? And as the site leader, your responsibilities are to read the proposal carefully, investigate the organization online, you're the expert, to coordinate your team, to ask questions at the site visit, keep track of timing, to review the visit and write bullet points, and to present at the trustee meeting.
So each organization will receive some information from the JWF office in advance of the visit, and we want you to understand what information is going to be sent out to them. So in a moment, we'll take a look at a logistics form that will be included as an attachment to the organizations with their email. And the structure of our visit, there'll be about 6 women from JWF participating. The JWF director will not always be present, and neither will the grants chairs. So you are the contact who's in charge of the site visit. One of the trustees is designated as the site visit. That's you. All of the women will have read through the grant proposal in advance, and the whole visit will be about an hour. Meeting us at the site visit is the executive director of the organization, at least one professional who will be involved in coordinating the project. Very often the grant writer might be there as well. And we ask for a board member to be present if possible. Sometimes there might be 2 board members. We'll start with introductions. JWF members will introduce themselves, and then we'll hear about the background and history and roles of the professionals from the organization. Then it will be the organization's turn to present to us, tell us about their mission, the project itself, the key outcomes that they're going to measure, and the impact of the project. And we expect that to last about 15 minutes. Some organizations may have slides for that part of the presentation or a handout as well. But the biggest part of the visit is the time for questions. There might be some questions that the organization has for us about JWF's mission and who we've granted to in the past. But most of the questions will come from us to the organization. We really want to know what makes them tick, and we want to know about the organization's finances, about other projects they've run, and questions that you have after reading the proposal so carefully. At the end of the visit, a quick tour of the facility might be appropriate if it's a facility that's going to be used by participants in the project. And if the project involves giving out packages of some kind to participants, you should also get to take a look at what that package might include. We tell the organizations that refreshments are not necessary. We ask if they would like us to wear masks, especially for health organizations. And lastly, we ask the organization to allow us access for 15 minutes once the site visit is officially over, for us to have the room so that we can have a meeting after the site visit to process what we've learned just with the JWF trustees in the room. So what information will you receive from the JWF office before heading out on your site visit? You'll get a copy of these slides as a PDF, so you can read through them again. The email that I just referenced before, that will be sent to you as well. And you're going to get the names and participants of the group that is going with you on the site visit, the full grant proposal, and most importantly, these 2 attachments that I'm going to show you right now, a logistics form. This form is first sent to the organization so they can fill out the top half. In addition to telling us their address, it also tells us special instructions for access or parking, and it will also key you into who will be involved in the presentation. Once we get this form from the organization, we send it back with this information, the names of the JWF participants and your cell phone, and this will be shared with you. Going back to our slides. So the logistics form that you just saw will be sent to those of you going for an in-person site visit. If you are going to be having a Zoom site visit, oops, sorry about that. Then you'll be getting a Zoom link and a calendar invite. Your Zoom link will have hosting information for you as a co-host, and it will also have guest admission privileges so that if you want to have a brief meeting with your team before the actual site visit starts, that you can admit the organization's members after inviting the JWF trustees. And then you'll also be getting a collective site visit evaluation form, which is really the important part of the meeting and how you're going to process it. And I'm going to show you that right now. So this is a 3-page site evaluation form, but don't get scared by the fact that it's 3 pages. The first page is brief comments as needed. These comments are for yourself. This is mostly to help you understand what some guiding questions might be for your visit. The second page is the one that the JWF office must receive back from you, because this is how we will put together a presentation, a slide presentation for the final meeting. As you can see, you're being asked to submit as bullet points in answer to these questions, so that, again, slides can be made pretty easily out of this information. We'll want to know about organization's challenges, the organization's strengths, what were your key takeaways and what was particularly noteworthy about your experience, and your group's overall impression of the organization. And although you don't need to fill this out at the site visit itself, every trustee will be getting an executive summary, a 1-page summary of the proposal. But you've read the long proposal that's several pages in length and seen the more exacting budget. JWF trustees are also welcome to read that, but some of them might not have done so. So if you think that there are 2 or 3 key bullet points that must be shared at the meeting that are not part of the executive presentation, then please share them at the end of this document. And finally, the last thing that the JWF office will do for you is that they will enter the numbers of all of your group into a group text chat so that you can communicate easily in advance.
So you might be wondering, what should you do before your visit? In many cases, as we said, the director will not be present to keep the numbers low. So you'll want to send a hello message to your group text chat, which has already been set up by the office, and remind them to look for that email in their inboxes. You'll want to read through the grant proposal and remind your team to read through it, and remind them to, or ask them to, submit questions via email in advance. You'll want to organize those questions from your team, read through the collective site visit evaluation form, which you just saw, to see if it triggers any more questions of importance, and print at least 1 copy. You may want to look at the organization's website and investigate its social media presence, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and you will distribute name stickers if possible and encourage mask wearing as appropriate. The goals of the visit are as follows. Although it's called a site visit, it's really more of a conversation or an interview. It may or may not have a touring component, depending on the organization and, of course, whether it's in person or on Zoom. Your job at this visit is to develop a feel for the organization and the people who are shepherding this project. Are they people we want to work with? Do you feel they have the capacity to carry out their stated goals? And then you want to assess the negative and the positive so you can present a full picture of the organization. The outline of the meeting. You'll want to take a photo of the group or have somebody take a photo of the group and the facility as appropriate. Appoint a timekeeper to keep you on track. Suggested timing is about an hour. You'll each introduce yourself on the JWF trustees to the people from that organization. That organization will introduce themselves and give a quick background and history with the agency, approximately 5 minutes. The organization will present the mission, the program, key outcomes, and the impact. There'll be time for questions from both sides, about 30 minutes. And if you're doing a tour, that's when you'll do the tour of the facility and possibly speak with a participant. Please do not indicate whether you think the organization is likely to receive funding or a grant. And then after you've done all of that, you'll have separate time and space with just JWF trustees to process the meeting and agree on bullet points for the meeting presentation. It should take no more than 15 minutes for that. Follow up within a day or two of the site visit, and while details are still fresh, you'll want to fill out that collective site visit evaluation form that Pam showed earlier. And if you don't want to use that form, you can just type your bullet points into a Word or a Google Doc, and that will serve as the basis for your presentation when we have the larger meeting. When you've done, please send it to the JWF director, Pam. How you'll prepare for the trustee meeting. The JWF director will be sending executive summaries and sending them out to trustees in advance. The basics of each project will not be reviewed at the trustee meeting. You'll want to include any important information from the grant application that is not included in the executive summary. You should note that as a bullet point in the last question on the collective slide visit form. JWF director will share the bullet points with you in advance so you'll know what the slides will look like. At the meeting, you'll have a few minutes to present and answer questions. Timing is determined depending on the number of finalists, but we will make sure that each presentation has the exact same amount of time. You want to review your proposal and budget so you're prepared to answer questions as they arise. And you'll want to remember to balance, sell the good points and point out the bad points. Thank you so much for listening to this and for agreeing to be a site team leader. We so appreciate your participation. That's what makes JWF such a great organization.
Thank you for being here and for taking on this leadership role.